What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the first video of 2019. My name is Luke. I hope you had a good new year, and I thought that we'd start the first video off of the year with something a little bit different. I recently hit 5,000 subscribers, or not too long ago at least, and obviously we are in a new year, so why not join the two things together and have a little bit of a celebration video with just a bit of a fun Q&A. So I put out on Twitter and asked people to send me any questions that you have about betting, about sports, about life, whatever you want, and send them my way. Now, admittedly, there wasn't quite as many responses as I was hoping for. There were 2. But nevertheless, I sent out an email, I put it on Reddit, and I got a few more responses from other sources so that we do have enough to just about squeeze a video together. So I hope you enjoy this, and if you do like it, make sure you hit that like button. And if you have any other questions that you wanted to ask, drop them down in the comments below. It can be about absolutely anything you want, and I'll try to answer as many people as I possibly can. So the first question came in from FOG Blog on Twitter, who says, beating the bookie, are we modern day Robin Hoods? Stealing from the morally corrupt and rich bookie? Or are we as bad as them? Ultimately, for some to win, others must lose, and the bookie is just the middleman. We are contributing to the hurt of gambling addicts everywhere. This is a lot more deep of a question than I was expecting to receive, definitely for the very first question that got sent in as well, but I think it's an interesting one, and it is something that I've thought about a number of times before. For those of you that have followed me for a while, you'll know that I always try to do things in an ethically positive way as I possibly can. That isn't always 100% possible, but you can always strive to do things as ethically as possible, and that's something that I want to do. So I'll start with actually the end of this thing that says, we are contributing to the hurt of gambling addicts everywhere. Now, I have a very deep amount of sympathy for people with gambling issues. This is something that I've looked at on the site in the past. In fact, the next video that I've got coming out on this channel is a survey about people that seem to have gambling problems but don't really know about it. So look forward to that one. What I would say is, I don't necessarily agree that we as match bettors or as people that know how to beat the bookie are contributing to the hurt of gambling addicts. An analogy that I've used on the channel before is, as matched bettors, what we do is very similar to people that just go to shops and buy things that are heavily discounted and then sell them on for a profit. That's all that you're doing. You're taking one price somewhere and you're getting a better price elsewhere and you're making profit on it. So it's very similar to that in theory, very loosely, but it is similar. There are people with shopping addictions out there, and you don't blame other shoppers for the people with shopping addictions. So I think this is similar. People with gambling addictions, you don't blame the other gamblers, because in fact, profitable gamblers don't contribute to the hurt of those that lose. Because if everyone was a profitable gambler, there would be no bookmakers. It is definitely the fault of the bookmakers themselves. So I don't think that we're contributing to that. You could argue that people aspire to be like winning bettors, but ultimately, if you follow match betting, you will win. Are we modern day Robin Hoods, stealing from the morally corrupt and rich bookmaker? I wouldn't say this at all. Most of us are taking from the rich and corrupt bookmakers, and we're keeping things for ourselves. We're not sharing it out. And whilst I do try and spread the word and spread the knowledge and help people out wherever I can, I do match betting, or I always did match betting for myself. I wasn't doing it for other people, so I certainly wouldn't say that we're like Robin Hood. What I would say is that what we are doing is perfectly ethical. It's perfectly fine, as long as you stay within the boundaries of the game. Now, I have to be very careful with my wording here. I hope some of you can understand what I'm implying here. As long as we play fair, we are doing things completely right. The bookmakers are the ones that are typically playing outside of the rules. They're very dodgy in a lot of ways. They get a lot of criticism, particularly from us as winning bettors that get shut down. They get a lot of hate and a lot of criticism and a lot of flack, and people are pressing for laws to be put on bookmakers to make them more fair. If we play outside the rules of the game as well, we are just as bad as them. So as long as we're playing fair and they're not, I think what we do is perfectly fine. But as soon as you decide to go a step too far and play outside the rules of the game, that's where things are, you know, morally corrupt, as you say. The next question on Twitter came in from Richard Bagshaw, and he said, you look pretty handy in a fight, I reckon. So my question is, would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or 1 horse-sized duck? I'm going to break this down into 2 parts. Firstly, you look pretty handy in a fight, I reckon. This is without doubt the first time anyone has ever said that to me in my life. I do have a story that I'll share here, actually, because I've never had a fight in my life, but I did throw a punch once, and it was possibly the best punch that's ever been thrown. I was on a night out. It was probably about 1 o'clock in the morning. This was a couple of years ago, and a guy from nowhere just charges at me in the middle of the dance floor, where I don't know why I go on the dance floor, because I can't dance. And anyway, a guy comes charging at me out of nowhere, and it's clear what his intention is. For some reason, he's got a problem with me. I have no idea why. He just comes for me, and I don't know what it was, just pure instinct. I just swung this uppercut out of nowhere, and it was the cleanest connection with thin air that you will ever see. It went straight past his head, didn't even graze him, just straight up, thin air. He was obviously perfectly fine. And then as he came at me again, out of nowhere again, pure instinct, I shaped up, and a man came flying in from the side and just cleaned him straight out in the cheek. I got no idea who this guy was. Apparently he recognized me from the pub. I have no idea. I've very rarely been to the pub in my life. Anyway, that was good fortune. With that in mind, with my fighting experience and, you know, 0% punch success rate, would I rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck? I would say I would rather fight one. You know, it's going to be a fucking massive duck, and I'd probably square up to it, and I'd be, yeah, you want to go? Yeah. I'm completely fine to square up to someone, but as for actually throwing a punch, yeah, I guess I would just hope that someone else punched the duck, or that I could run away, or that I just got sent to sleep, like, really early, maybe. I don't know. I hope that answers the question. Moving on to the Reddit questions now. Now it's Asshole. Nice name. He says he's been doing match betting and made over £7,000 in 2018, but over the last 3 to 4 months, his income has dropped from £800 plus a month to around £300 to £400. Part of that is due to being gubbed with a lot of the bigger bookmakers. Having done this for longer than he has, should he be concerned? This is something that I actually covered in a recent video. It might have been my last video, I can't remember for sure, where I said, how long will match betting last? Will 2019 be the last year? So I would recommend checking that video out if you're interested in finding out more about that. But in general, this is something that's happened over many, many years. When I first got into match betting, the typical profits that people were aiming for was like £2,500 a month. That was seen as, you know, a good month, but an achievable month. When we were doing that, people would say, match betting's dying, it is absolutely dying, when a few years ago you could make £5,000 a month doing it. Is it annoying that we weren't making £5,000 a month when we first started? Yeah, it was. You would make 2,000 and you think, oh God, I wish I was doing this 2 years ago. And likewise, when people get into it more now, they're making £500, £800 a month, and they're saying, oh, I wish it was like the olden days where people were making £2,000. I've got in at the wrong time. Should I just give up? Well, making a few £100 a month is a lot more than making nothing a month, especially when it's tax-free, and it doesn't take much time. So do I think things are slowing down? Yes, but there's no reason at all for people just to stop until they have no choice but to stop, which takes a very long time. Wisey the Ninja asks, is there any way for people in the US to pull this off? Again, this is something I've covered in the past. I think I've got a video up on the channel about it. I definitely have a post up on the website, Beating Betting, about Dutching. If you don't have access to betting exchanges, so any country in the world where you don't have access to betting exchanges, I get a lot of people from Africa asking me about this. If you don't have access to a betting exchange, you need to look into the method of Dutching. I'll leave that question there because it's just too complicated to cover in any great detail without going into great detail. Crazy White Boy, he says, I'm looking to get into match betting, but my nerves and anxiety keep getting in the way. Are there any tips on what to do? It's going to sound obvious, but just place your first match bet. This is something that I actually had. I didn't want to get started when I was first getting into it. I was reading up about it, and there's always that doubt. Even though you see other people doing it and you can look at the math and you can see that it works, you still don't really understand how it works until you do it. You really just have to place that first bet. Just sign up on the site now. I've got quite a few offers with instructions of how you can complete it. It's completely free instructions, so go ahead and check those out. Just literally sign up for your first bookmaker and exchange, deposit the recommended amount, and just do it. That's all you can do. Some people are going to make mistakes, but if you start off with a small amount of money, you're not going to lose a massive amount of money. And as long as you follow the instructions carefully, you can't do things wrong. If you follow the instructions, you double check, triple check your stakes, there isn't a way that you could have made a mistake. You don't need to use your brain. You just need to follow the instructions. He also asks, how do I keep track of profits? I use a spreadsheet, Google Sheets, just so that I can access it wherever I go. He also asks, how often do I cash out? And what I think he means by this is withdraw, because he then goes on to say, do you leave money in the account or immediately withdraw it to your bank? When you're first starting, and if you're doing a sign-up offer, I typically recommend that if you win into the bookmaker, you place a mug bet, or maybe even a couple of mug bets, depends how frisky you're feeling, and then withdraw it out and move on to the next sign-up offer. And when you're experienced and you're using a bigger bankroll, you're using all of the major bookmakers on a regular basis, there isn't really a need to withdraw because you have enough money to keep some in the accounts, you have enough money to keep some in your exchanges, and when there's a big race day or big football matches and big offers, more importantly, you can just put the money on that's already in your accounts. And yes, you are going to have to withdraw amounts from time to time, but I normally keep certain amounts of money in the bigger bookmaker accounts that I have left. Moving on, Like a Drug says, I had to stop match betting because I got a gambling slots addiction. I self-excluded on all websites via GamStop. Side note, GamStop is absolutely brilliant if any of you feel like you have a gambling addiction, and things like Monzo, Barclays, now they have an option on your bank account where you can just automatically block all gambling transactions. I would absolutely recommend this if any of you are suffering issues with gambling addiction. He then says, have you ever been close to getting an addiction? And for me, it sounds like the complete opposite to my story. I actually would say I had a pretty significant gambling addiction before I found match betting. I was betting a lot, I was gambling a lot. I remember one time I actually put every penny I had, and it wasn't a massive amount of money, but I remember it vividly. I was sat at home and I think I literally had like £100 left in my overdraft, maybe even less than this. And I put it all on roulette. I guess this story is going to sound really bad. It's going to sound even worse because the spin actually won. And I won, I can't remember exactly, it was like £600 to £800 maybe, and it won, and I didn't feel any joy. I didn't feel relief. I felt miserable. I couldn't believe what I'd just done. Obviously, it helped in that situation. I don't want to encourage anyone to do the same thing that I did because mathematically, it was highly likely that I would lose. I didn't. And ever since then, it was only shortly after that that I found match betting. And when I found match betting, I became very risk averse, or a lot more risk averse than I was previously. I don't mind taking gambles theoretically now where you're risking money. I know now when something has a high amount of value, and I'm only willing to risk money when something has a high amount of value. Not willing to risk money on gambles and minus EV plays anymore. Match betting helped me to learn about value and learn about just silly risks, unnecessary risks. So yeah, it's been the complete opposite for me. When I actually first found match betting, it put me off gambling altogether. I didn't want to risk anything. I wanted everything to be risk-free. A lot of people say match betting is risk-free. I'm not allowed to say that anymore legally because you could make mistakes. But yeah, it's pretty much as close to risk-free as it can get without being risk-free. So when I first started it, it put me off gambling altogether. And over time, as I learned more about value and about picking up EV, it did start to make me more willing to lose money on valuable selections. You can't really find valuable selections in the betting markets unless you are massively clued up. And massively clued up does not mean you know a lot about football like most bettors think. I hope this answer has been interesting or useful in some way. A couple of people asked me in private about FPL videos, where the FPL videos have gone, and what I would say is the reason that I've sort of stopped doing them, not 100%, I will still do the odd FPL video here and there, but the reason that I've stopped making them, particularly on a weekly basis, is two-pronged. Firstly, there's a lot of people making good videos and good podcasts, and they're a lot better than I am. They provide more information, they provide better detail, they provide better tips. It takes me a lot of time. I pay a video editor to edit the video, so it costs me money to make the FPL videos as well. And I know some people were enjoying them, so I do apologize. You know, I've got to run a business. I can't commit to something when I know it's not really going to be the long-term thing that I want it to be, when I know that everyone else is doing better than me. They can commit more to it than me. So that was one thing. The other thing, a few of you will know that I am in some reasonably high-value buy-in FPL leagues. Not the most amount of money in the world, but if I was to win all of my leagues, I would pick up somewhere between £5,000 to £6,000. Me putting out what I'm doing with my team is minus EV. I'm showing my hand and I'm not getting others to show their hands. And I know that people that are in my leagues have seen my videos. I don't want to give them an advantage where it's a reasonable amount of money on the line if I can win. And at this moment, at the time of recording, I am winning my mini leagues. Let me just check my overall rank if you're interested in finding that out. I should know it. Normally, I know my rank like off the top of my head, but I had a couple of small red arrows recently, so it's gone downhill. So I'm currently ranked inside the top 9,000. So things are going well. I'm top of most of my mini leagues. There's a couple where I'm second, and then the bigger ones, the FML FPL League, I would definitely recommend listening to them. The Always Cheating League, I would recommend listening to them as well. I'm in the hundreds. I'm inside the top 500 on them, 300. The Beat the General, FPL General, another great person to follow inside the top 300 there. So I'm doing pretty well, and I just didn't want to reveal my hand, as I say, to people that are going to get an advantage from me doing so. If you did want an FPL tip, I'll give one away right now. Don't use your second wildcard too soon. If you've already used your second wildcard and you've already used your free hit chip, you may as well give up with your season now. If you enjoy it, fair enough, carry on. If you're trying to achieve a good overall rank, give up. You've already gone. Your chance has gone. I'm sorry, you've blown it. For those of you that do still have your second wildcard and your free hit, you've got a very good chance coming up to the double game weeks. So use them wisely, plan things out very well, weeks in advance, and you should have a good end to the season. And the final thing that was sent in to me via email asks, what is my main goal for 2019? And for me, my main goal is, surprisingly for someone that talks a lot about money, is not financial at all. What I'm planning is a real long-term strategy here, and that 2020 and onwards is going to be my real focus for money. And this year, I want to put a lot of time into content, purely content. So that's going to be YouTube, mainly YouTube. In fact, I'm going to invest a lot of time and some money into YouTube, and I'm going to also put a lot of my time into websites as well. So for those of you that do like my videos, then stay tuned. I've got a lot of interesting stuff coming your way. For those of you that are looking for some new stuff, I've got new stuff coming out in all different areas. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. If you have found this video interesting, or you've picked up tips or whatever, then hit that like button. As I said earlier on, let me know any other questions you may have. It can be about any topic at all. Just let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll get back to as many people as I possibly can. I hope you have brilliant 2019s, and I look forward to seeing you again in another video. Thanks for watching.